This video is about why the calm, patient person in a conflict often becomes more dangerous than the one who attacks first. If you've ever stayed silent while someone pushed you, provoked you, or tried to dominate you, and felt that silence being mistaken for weakness, you already know the tension this creates. Most people react too fast because they feel cornered into responding, defending, striking back. But patience quietly alters the balance of power in ways most people only recognize after the damage is done. By the end of this video, you'll see why restraint unsettles aggressors, how waiting shifts control, and why the final outcome almost never belongs to the one who rushed. This only becomes clear once the full pattern is visible. On one side is the aggressor, ruled by impulse, emotion, and force. Their anger flares quickly, but that intensity makes them predictable. Every reaction reveals intent. Every outburst gives something away. On the other side is the patient individual, still, silent, controlled. They do not rush. They do not explain themselves. That calm presence begins to disturb the aggressor because silence offers no target. And as the patient person remains steady, the one who attacks first slowly starts to lose control. What matters next is not who acts first, but who still has control when the noise fades. This dynamic leads to a deeper question. Why does the loud, aggressive person, the one who seems to hold all the power in the moment, so often lose to the quiet observer who waits? At first glance, it doesn't make sense. We're conditioned to believe that strength means taking action, that force must be answered with force, and that hesitation equals weakness. We see this logic in nature, where animals display dominance to push rivals away. But human power doesn't follow the same rules. In complex social environments, the loudest presence often becomes the most visible target, and visibility invites pressure. The real difference comes down to control, who truly has it and who only looks like they do. To understand why patience works, you have to see what aggression quietly destroys. The aggressor, despite all the noise, has already lost control of the one thing that matters most: themselves. They are driven by their temper, their insecurity, and their need to be seen and acknowledged. Every reaction exposes them. Their behavior becomes an open book, written in a language anyone can understand. They reveal what they want, what they fear, and how they plan to act. In the process, they waste their leverage early, making demands and threats they may not be able to support. That brief sense of dominance feels powerful, but it doesn't last. It replaces strategy with impulse, and piece by piece their real power disappears. The patient person moves differently. They act from a place of full control, having already mastered their own impulses. Once control is lost internally, every move becomes visible to those who know how to watch. That level of self-mastery gives them something rare: the freedom to think clearly, to plan, to see the situation as it actually is, not as emotion makes it feel. Silence and stillness are not signs of passivity. They are deliberate choices. They are tools used to create uncertainty and to collect information. While the aggressor is busy reacting and performing, the patient observer is analyzing. They notice every weakness, every emotional trigger, every careless mistake. They allow the aggressor to build their own cage, one outburst at a time. And as this quiet contest unfolds, the real question becomes clear. It isn't about physical strength. It's about intelligence, about discipline, about who is capable of playing the long game. Silence isn't absence here, it's pressure. The aggressor is chasing a fast win, a moment of dominance that feels immediate. The patient individual is doing something else entirely. They are positioning themselves for the final move, the one that actually decides the outcome. They understand a simple truth. In real conflicts, the person who strikes first is rarely the one who strikes last. Power isn't found in noise or force. It comes from timing, from restraint, from knowing exactly when silence has done its work and when to end it. That understanding is the lesson the aggressor realizes only when it's already too late. The aggressor is operating under a deep illusion. They believe strength must be loud, that power needs to be displayed. They confuse noise with control and constant motion with progress. But real power is rarely dramatic. What looks like confidence is often desperation. Like a storm, their energy is intense but short-lived, leaving disorder behind once it passes. And when that illusion of strength meets calm, steady stillness, it begins to fracture. Silence exposes what the noise was trying to hide. What looks like strength here is actually a countdown. The aggressor's greatest weakness is how predictable they are. Ruled by emotion, they move in a familiar cycle, escalate, raise their voice, make threats. Anyone who is watching closely can already see the next step before it happens. Like a bull charging at a red cape, they have power, but only in one direction. That predictability becomes a chain. It drains their energy, limits their options, and slowly pulls them toward exhaustion and defeat. Once behavior becomes predictable, power quietly changes hands. Emotion keeps the aggressor moving, but it comes at a high cost. Anger tightens their focus, clouds their judgment, and drains their energy faster than they realize, leaving them exposed. The patient person remains calm and composed, conserving strength and keeping every option open. When emotion decides your actions, leverage disappears and control slips away. And in the end, the aggressor runs out of energy long before the conflict is finished. A lot of what we're discussing here, patience, silence, leverage, is difficult to apply without a deeper framework. I've put that framework together in my ebook, The Art of Strategic Indifference. It breaks down real patterns of power, restraint, and strategic thinking without motivation or moral framing. If you want to understand how these dynamics actually work in real situations, you'll find the link in the description. In their rush to control the moment, the aggressor often damages themselves in ways they don't see. They destroy bridges they may need later. Insults, threats, intimidation, these tactics leave marks. They create resentment that doesn't fade easily. The aggressor might win the argument in the room, but they lose something far more important: future alliances. People remember how they were treated. Fear can force short-term compliance, but it also creates patience in others. Those people wait. And over time, the aggressor builds enemies without noticing, slowly isolating themselves until there is no one left to support them. At this point, the conflict stops being emotional and becomes structural. They win small battles while quietly guaranteeing they will lose the war. This mindset exposes a serious lack of foresight. The aggressor lives in the present moment, chasing the quick rush of feeling powerful right now. They don't think beyond that moment. They ignore second and third order consequences. What happens tomorrow? What happens next week? How might the person they are attacking today help or hurt them later? These questions never enter their thinking because emotion blocks long-term vision. In chasing a brief sense of dominance, they trade lasting influence for a victory that disappears almost immediately. Every aggressive outburst burns another bridge, slowly trapping the aggressor on an island they built themselves. The patient individual sees the situation differently. They understand that relationships, even hostile ones, are a form of leverage. An opponent today can become a useful ally tomorrow. Because of this, they move with restraint. They avoid personal attacks and unnecessary insults. Their aim is not humiliation, it is positioning, to outmaneuver, not destroy. By maintaining control and sometimes even showing measured respect, they keep doors open. They give the opponent space to retreat without total loss of face, and that restraint becomes power later. This restraint makes them appear reasonable, even magnanimous, and that perception becomes a tool in itself. When the conflict ends, they haven't created an enemy obsessed with revenge. The aggressor, by contrast, moves toward isolation. Their reputation arrives before they do. People learn to avoid them, work around them, or quietly align against them. The loud displays that once looked like strength now signal danger and instability. Respect turns into distrust. Support disappears. Resistance grows. After burning every bridge, they're left standing alone, confused about where their power went. The patient person reaches a different outcome. Their bridges remain intact. They have allies. They have options. And when the final move comes, they are the ones standing on solid ground. Now the focus shifts to the other side of the game. The patient individual operates like a stalking predator, defined not by constant action, but by restraint. Like a leopard hidden in tall grass, their strength comes from what they refuse to do. They watch, they wait, they learn. Stillness is not weakness for them, it is a weapon. The patient person isn't frozen or unsure. They are processing everything, allowing the aggressor to expose their patterns and tactics. They remain the calm center of the storm, clear-minded while chaos swirls around them. And they wait, not endlessly, but precisely, for the moment that matters. Patience unsettles the aggressor. They expect resistance, noise, a reaction. Instead, they're met with calm silence, a mirror that reflects their own disorder back at them. As that silence stretches on, confidence begins to erode. Doubt creeps in. They start questioning themselves. And in that discomfort, they reveal more than they should. They speak too much. They expose intent. They dig their own hole. In the end, they aren't defeated by words or force, but by what they revealed when faced with their own reflection. In any conflict, every action has a cost. The patient person understands this, treating words and movements like currency, spending them carefully. They avoid rash decisions and keep their leverage untouched, held in reserve. While the aggressor exhausts themselves through constant reaction, the patient person endures, and when they finally choose to act, that action carries weight. It lands with force because it is rare, deliberate, and timed. This is the reward for waiting, a decisive move made on their terms. By choosing stillness and silence, the patient person creates a strategic vacuum, and both nature and human behavior resist empty space. When one side refuses to act, the other feels an urge to fill the gap. The aggressor, hungry for control, rushes in, speaking more, posturing more, revealing more. The patient person gives nothing back. No reaction, no feedback, only silence. That imbalance disrupts the aggressor's momentum and throws them off balance. Each step into that vacuum pulls them deeper into uncertainty, exposing plans and weaknesses they didn't intend to show. While this happens, the patient person gathers information and controls the pace without saying a word. Uncomfortable with the silence, the aggressor makes mistakes just to escape it. Power here isn't about providing answers, it's about creating uncertainty. And inside that silence, the aggressor defeats themselves. In any conflict, information is the most valuable asset. The aggressor, moving too fast and making too much noise, forgets to listen. In doing so, they reveal far more than they realize. The patient individual uses silence as cover, turning it into a tool for gathering intelligence. They watch closely. What provokes anger, where hesitation appears? What promises are made too quickly? They begin mapping the aggressor's mind, identifying emotional triggers and psychological weak points. The aggressor believes they are in control, but they are slowly exposing themselves. The patient person builds a quiet record, not just for this moment, but for what may come later. Patterns form, weaknesses repeat. Meanwhile, the aggressor plays with their cards face up, unaware of the real game unfolding. Without a word being spoken, the balance of power shifts to the one who is watching. If this perspective is useful, you can quietly support the channel with a like, and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. The patient person isn't trying to make a dramatic or clever move. Their real aim is simpler: to allow the aggressor to defeat themselves. The most damaging mistakes are unforced, and they come from impatience and the need to act. Silence creates pressure without effort, pulling the aggressor forward. They escalate, they overpromise, they reveal things they shouldn't. They damage relationships, not because they're being pushed, but because they lack control. The patient person doesn't interrupt or correct them. They let the errors stack up quietly. With each mistake, the balance of power shifts. The moment the aggressor feels most confident is often when they're most exposed. Convinced of their strength, they walk straight into their own traps. The patient person's action is restraint, allowing the self-destruction to continue until small errors converge into one final decisive collapse. The information collected isn't for curiosity, it's ammunition. The patient person uses it with precision, not force. Small, well-timed actions exploit the aggressor's weaknesses. A quiet comment can introduce doubt, aimed directly at an insecurity. Pointing out the aggressor's own contradictions exposes their lack of control without raising a voice. Calmly holding them to the threats or promises they made too quickly traps them inside their own words. The effect is devastating. The aggressor doesn't just look weak to the patient person, and they look foolish to anyone watching. The patient person never builds the trap. They simply allow the aggressor to step into it on their own. Knowledge dismantles confidence, and precision replaces brute force. In the end, the aggressor is undone by nothing but themselves. Leverage is the ability to shape outcomes. The aggressor spends it without thinking, burning through options with every emotional outburst. The patient person does the opposite. They commit to nothing. They observe. They collect information. Each mistake the aggressor makes, each door they leave open, quietly adds to the patient person's position. While one side weakens, the other grows stronger. Real leverage comes from information, psychological advantage, and preserved relationships. The aggressor transfers power with every move they make, without realizing it. By the end, the patient person holds the advantage. More information, more options, more control. The aggressor is drained, boxed in by their own behavior. And the final move isn't dramatic. It's simply the moment the patient person decides to cash in everything they've built. Eventually, the balance begins to shift. The aggressor's facade starts to crack. Their voice loses certainty. Their posture softens. Fatigue sets in. With no reaction to feed on, their resolve weakens and their energy drains away. They begin to realize their approach isn't working, and doubt takes its place. Confidence fades into frustration, then into silence. The patient person notices this collapse long before anyone else does. By now, the aggressor has spent everything: energy, emotion, leverage, and stands exposed. To an outsider, the conflict may seem to fade out. But for the patient person, this is the turning point. Not the end, but the opening. The hunter has waited long enough. The prey is finally exhausted. The decisive moment doesn't arrive with force. It arrives with exhaustion. As the aggressor's energy drains away, the gravity in the room begins to shift. Attention slowly moves toward the patient individual, whose silence now carries weight, heavy with potential. The aggressor, once commanding the space, becomes unsettled, forced to wait instead of act. By staying composed, the quiet person now holds the leverage. Power hasn't just moved. It has condensed, settling fully into the hands of the observer. Only now does the patient person move. Not sooner, not impulsively. And the move isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, deliberate, and precise, using every piece of leverage collected along the way to end the conflict on their terms. The aggressor's anger no longer matters. It has no weight here. What remains is a calm, immovable reality. The conflict doesn't end with noise or spectacle, but with something far more decisive: the quiet final click of a door closing. The conflict is over. The aggressor, once loud and forceful, is left with silence and the damage they created. Their impatience, their outbursts, their need to act became the cause of their collapse. The patient individual remains calm, observant, untouched by the chaos. They endured the storm and outlasted it, not through force, but through discipline and control. When everything settles, the outcome is undeniable. Patience wins. True power isn't loud or aggressive. It is quiet, deliberate, and patient. Those who truly hold power don't need to prove it through force or outbursts. Their strength comes from restraint, from observation, from strategy. While the aggressor is easy to predict, the patient person remains a mystery, watching, waiting, and acting only when the timing is right. That is the nature of real power. The lesson that lasts is simple. In the world of power, emotion is a weakness and aggression is a strategic mistake. Real strength comes from self-mastery, staying calm, patient, and unreadable, while others exhaust themselves. The world doesn't bend to the loudest voice. It bends to the most patient hand. If this video gave you clarity, take a moment to like it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment. I read them. Subscribe if you want more analysis like this. And when you're ready, watch the next video.